open session again.
There it goes.
Yeah. These meetings do get recorded and then replayed on HWCAM, so we need to be sure to record them. So we're going to leave the open session in a minute, go to our executive session, and then we will reconvene at this number, at this meeting ID after our executive session at around 6:30 p.m. So the motion, I move to enter into executive session via a separate Zoom link under MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. And we will return to open session, as I said, at approximately 6:30. And the subject of these negotiations is DPW Director candidate Rich Souza. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay, so we'll do a roll call vote. Diane?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Catherine? Yes. So we are unanimous to go into executive session for the purpose just announced. So we're going to leave this meeting. The three of us are going to leave this meeting and use the executive session ID to go into executive session. And Michelle, are you all set for us to do that?
Yes. Am I starting executive session?
Excuse me?
Right. I'm starting.
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
Yep. So
yes.
I'm going to end this.
Okay.
And then,
So we can leave, and everybody's got the executive session number, I think.
right.
Okay. This is the continuation of a meeting. We opened the meeting in open session. We moved to go into executive session, which is on our agenda, and to return to open session at 6:30, which we are doing at 6:31. So this is the second part of the meeting, the open session portion of the meeting of January 4th, 2000. Have to get used to saying 2022. So we will start as we do with public input. So this is the beginning of the slideshow. If you can share your screen. Michelle McGovern is our executive assistant to our TA, and she's helping us run the Zoom tonight. And there we go. So if you can just move that on to public input. It should be the next slide. Oh, there you go. So we're at the portion of the meeting where if anyone wishes to share anything, ask a question, or make a comment, we will accept that now for the next few minutes, as we do at all of our meetings. So if you have something that you would like to say, if you'd put your name in the chat, and I will ask Michelle to look at the chat for about 30 seconds. Added to the 30 seconds has taken me to say this as slowly as possible. And if we have someone, we'll hear comments. Michelle, is there anyone in the chat?
I don't think so.
Okay. And I don't see it. Okay, so we'll continue on with our agenda. The next thing on our agenda for this evening is our announcements. So if we could just move to that. We just have a couple of announcements tonight. The first one is one that we've seen before, especially these days. Please visit the COVID information site on the website, wenhamma.gov/COVID, gives some current cases and allows you to sign up for vaccine clinics, which are, I believe, still being held on Wednesdays at the Hamilton Senior Center from 3:30 to 6:30, but do require an appointment. The Board of Health is going to be meeting, this little PSA for the Board of Health meeting. They're going to be meeting Friday morning. As things constantly change, they have some things that they'd like to discuss that we'd like to hear about. So that will happen. And if there are any updates from the Board of Health after their Friday morning meeting, we will make sure to make those updates at our next meeting. Okay, next announcement. Here we are, winter parking ban. So as most of us know, the town of Wenham has a winter parking ban that's in effect from November 15th of every year, but 2021 in this case, through March 31st of 2022. This is just a blanket parking ban, which means no vehicles may be parked on town streets from midnight to 6 a.m. between those dates. And that's, of course, to allow plowing of any snow that we may have, so that our DPW can actually clear the streets as well as they always do. So it's been in effect actually a little. I don't think we've had any plowable snow yet, but we may. And that ban is in effect until the end of March. Okay. I actually think that's it for our announcements, unless, I do not actually have a chair's report tonight. A lot of things going on, but nothing in the way of a report. You'll hear a lot of what has been going on that I'm aware of as we go through the agenda. Is there anything that Gary or Diane would like to report on this evening that we're not going to cover on the agenda, or we don't think we are?
Not I.
Okay. So moving on to the consent agenda, we do have some minutes approval, and we'll take a motion, please, Diane.
I move to approve the Wenham Select Board meeting open session minutes for December 8th, 2021, which was a Hamilton Wenham Tri-Board, December 13th, 2021, and December 14th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor, we'll take a vote on this consent agenda. Gary?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Catherine? Yes. So unanimous for the minutes. Okay, most of our work tonight is under new business, and the first item on the agenda is a presentation of some local election information, and we have our town clerk Trudy Reed here. I'm hoping that she will take us through some slides so we can hear about. It's hard to believe, but it's almost local election time again. Thank you for coming, Trudy.
Thank you for having me. Michelle could go to the first slide. Great. So here's some upcoming dates and events that we are going to be having. The annual town meeting as of now will be scheduled for Saturday, April 22nd. The town elections coming up on April 7th, which will be held here at Town Hall. Nomination papers for our annual election will be available starting a week from yesterday, Monday, on January 10th. Anyone who is an incumbent received a notice from me today if their term is up, to let them know that their term is up, and if they want to pull papers, to let me know and I can get those ready. As you can see, the last day to register to vote will be March 11th, and this applies to the town meeting and to the town election. On this date, I will be open until 8 p.m., or you can register online at the link that's provided, or by going to the Secretary of State's website, and they'll have a link there as well. So Michelle, next slide, please. So these are the open seats that we have, and their terms are listed. I'm not going to sit here and read them because I'm sure you're all capable of reading them yourselves. And they are on the website. I've sent out a couple of press releases. I'm not sure if the Salem News or the Patch has picked it up, but it's on the website. I'll be putting it on Facebook on the 2 pages from Hamilton Wenham. And so those are our seats that we have. I'd like to say on the Housing Authority, several years ago, the state wanted to change how one of the seats was elected, and that was going to be done by the tenants. And I've been working with Paula Mountain, the Housing Authority Director. We currently have 2 tenants on the board, so she's requested a waiver, so there will be 1 seat open at large. The regional school is at large, and then we've got 1 Wenham seat on the Library of Trustees. So next slide, please. So the nomination papers become available on Monday, and they have to be returned no later than Thursday, February 17th at 5 p.m. In Wenham, you need at least 21 registered voters. For the school, you need at least 40. Corinne, the town clerk in Hamilton, her and I are going to the school committee meeting on Thursday. We're going to change the process around just a tad. Anybody who's running for school district, they will pick up the papers in their appropriate town that will allow us to certify that they are a registered voter before they even go out and collect signatures. We're also going to do the certification of these nomination papers, and Corinne and I will work together to make sure that if there's names from both towns on one piece of paper, that we'll coordinate and go back and forth and make sure that everybody's got the number of signatures that are required. And we will also coordinate with the school secretary, the school district secretary, so that she's in the loop as well. So anybody who's planning to run for the school committee needs at least 40. We suggest getting additional 10 to 20 to make sure that you have the required number. It's amazing how some people forget what street they live on and put down the wrong number and we can't certify it. So Corinne and I have been working with Dana Alera, the school committee chair, on the process. And we just think it's going to be a little bit easier process for the voters to pick up their papers from us. And that's what we'll be talking about Thursday night with them if there's any questions. I think that's all I have on the elections. If there's any questions, I do have 2 quick announcements to make, but if anybody has any questions on elections.
Questions? Diane?
I do. Trudy, that's awesome that you're working with Corinne and the school committee to change that process. But can you reiterate, if you're running for school committee and you're from Wenham, you do need to get 40 signatures from, and they can be from either town? Is that correct?
You need yes, you need a total of 40 signatures. So it doesn't matter where they're from. So that's why Corinne and I will be coordinating. Ideally, it would be nice if somebody's running in Wenham that they get 40 signatures from Wenham. It would make it so much easier, but
Doesn't work
we will
that way.
certainly, you know, if you only return 20 and you get 20 in Hamilton, everybody can be assured that Corinne and I will work together to make sure all the signatures are certified. So we first approached the school district to see if they would be willing to change that section of the regional agreement, because Mass General Law does actually require that nomination papers are certified by the Board of Registrars and or town clerks, which has not been done in past years. It's always been the school district secretary. But to change one section of the contract or the agreement is not really feasible, and because it would have to go to the Department of Education, which could take several years. So we've decided to try to go this approach and see how that works for everyone, as long as the school committee is in agreement with what we're trying to do.
So following up on Diane's question, if I were running for school committee, if someone is running for school committee and they live in Wenham, they can fill out get the forms from Wenham, and they can get 40 signatures that are some combination, doesn't really matter, right, from the voting point of view, of Hamilton and Wenham registered voters. And then they would return with those papers to the Wenham town clerk if they live in Wenham.
Yes,
right?
Yes, you return the papers to where you pick them up.
And all 40 of those, and the Wenham town clerk, that would be you, will make sure that all 40 of those signatures, whether they're in Hamilton or Wenham, working with Corinne, will make sure those 40 signatures are certified.
Absolutely. Yes.
And then I guess I've forgotten how the candidate gets notified that they're.
We will know. So if the candidate is from Wenham, I will notify them. If they're from Hamilton, Corinne will notify them.
Okay.
Just a brief history. What's happened in the past, and this has happened for years. The school district secretary would get the voters list from the town clerks, and she could request that list anywhere from a week to 3 weeks in advance. And the applicant, the candidate would pick up the papers from the school district secretary. They may go out and collect their signatures, but at some point they'd have to bring them back to their town clerk to make sure they were a registered voter. There's a lot that happens in 2 to 3 weeks. We have, when we certify papers, we have up-to-date information on our state's voter registration system. So if somebody passes away, if somebody moves, we've got that information as up to date, which was hard for the school district secretary to have that up-to-date information because she was requesting our voters list 2 to 3 weeks in advance. So they may have certified in the past signatures that may not have been certifiable if the town clerks were doing it, because we've got the latest information. Also, some people may have been collecting signatures without verifying that they were a registered voter. So we're taking that extra step out as having them pick up the papers first. That way we can confirm that they're a registered voter or not before they go collect their signatures. So that's the process that we hope to work with this year.
Having been on the school committee, that was many years ago, it was a very confusing process with the secretary for the school district and which town clerk. So I agree. This sounds like it will work really well. Thank you and Corinne for doing the extra work and coordinating to get this, assuming the school committee agrees, get this going for this year.
Well, when I was here before as town clerk, it was a very frustrating process. So hopefully we can get it a little more easygoing and make it easier for the candidates.
Great. Okay.
Any other questions on elections?
No.
So if I could just quickly announce, the annual census for 2022 will be going out shortly to every mailbox except for Gordon College, where we do those separate. So it's the annual census, which is different from the federal census. This is something that we do every year as required by Mass General Law. So once you get your census form, if you could kindly verify the information and sign it and return it back to me as soon as possible, it would greatly appreciate it. Also on the back of the census form, if you have a dog, you can register your dog.
I got no speaker.
Oh, well.
Whoever that is, you actually do have a speaker.
So you can, so it's also dog registration time for 2022 tags.
No, your speaker is not working. Please check your connection or use a different speaker.
Bill, if you can
There's-
hear us. We can hear you.
We have a participant that has Bill Tyak's name in
Oh.
the box. I don't know if it's Bill, but
And Michelle, mute that box.
can you do that, Michelle?
You are.
Or I guess, yeah, the person could perhaps
There we
identify
go.
themselves.
Yeah. So
Okay.
anyways, it's time for our
Sorry.
dog registration process as well, which can be done online or at the counter. If you come into the counter, cash or checks only. Online, you can do it with credit card or a check. And the tags will be mailed out within a day or so if you process it online.
What's
And
the
what's the
cost?
deadline? I'm sorry.
The cost is $10 if the dog is spayed or neutered and $15 if the dog is intact.
And the deadline? Did you say that?
We started that, well, the late
Is
fee
there one?
goes into effect February 1st.
Okay.
If for some reason there's a glitch at the vendor who's sending out the census and they don't get out for another 2 to 3 weeks, I may extend that. So it depends on when the census form goes out.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for Trudy about elections and census? Okay.
Could
If
Trudy
not-
just take a minute to explain what the census is used for?
Sure, the annual census is used to keep track of everybody who's currently living in town as of January 1st. It keeps you active on the voters list. If you do not return the census, we have no idea if you're living in town. So at a certain point, you could be made inactive, which does not take you off the voters list. It just, it is what it means. It's inactive. And if you'd come to vote later in the fall, when it's a busy election year, you would have to prove that you still live in town and just fill out a form. If you go through a 4-year process after we've made you inactive, we can delete you from the list if you don't respond to your annual census. It's also used for knowing the population of our town so that if anybody's applying for state or federal grants, that comes in handy as well to know the accurate population as best as we can get.
And
So
Trudy,
that's
you said that you send out a separate form for Gordon students?
Actually, what the process has been over the years is staff at Gordon College will send us a list of everybody that's on campus, and then we update the voter registration system based on their list. Where the college students come and go more frequently, it's easier to work with the staff at Gordon College, and that's actually allowed by Mass General Law because of the dwelling size that it is.
Okay. Been a lot of questions about, especially with the redistricting, about census and voting and Gordon College, so wanted to clarify.
We will do a lot of education once we get past the local election on on how that redistricting is going to work.
Right. Okay. Okay. Gary, Diane, anything else on this?
Good.
Okay. Okay.
Great.
Thank you, Trudy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So next on our agenda is a proclamation that has been put together in a very timely fashion by our Human Rights Committee. I will introduce this. I don't see, so the chair of our Human Rights Committee, Martha Brennan, was very involved in coming up with this proclamation. It is similar in form to a proclamation that we used before for the Indigenous Peoples Day. And she is asking that we, and there it is, she is asking that we adopt this proclamation as we did before. Read it, except it just disappeared. And then put it on the website. And it's, you know, in regards to what Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which is, I believe, January 17th. So how about, since I don't see Martha, how about if I read this proclamation and then we can make a motion and vote on it, and should we approve it, then we'll sign it and it will go on our website. So this says, whereas since 1986, the third Monday in January has been a federal holiday to celebrate the life and work of the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. And whereas on January 17th, 2022, we observe Martin Luther King Day, Jr. Day, and reflect on the work that still needs to be done to achieve justice and equality for people of all races and economic standings, and to secure and protect our democracy by protecting voting rights for all. And whereas the Wenham Select Board created a Human Rights Committee to advise the town in its efforts to promote diversity, inclusion, non-discrimination, and equitable treatment for all its citizens and visitors alike. And whereas Dr. King saw for our country a journey to a mountaintop upon which all Americans could live together in mutual respect and work together with strength and determination to expand opportunities and end structural inequalities for all people in the areas of employment and economic mobility. And whereas Dr. King taught us human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step toward the goal, this is a quote, by the way, every step toward the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle, the tireless exertions and passionate concern of dedicated individuals, end quote. And therefore, we, the Wenham Select Board, acknowledge and celebrate the life and legacy of Martin Luther King Jr., and we encourage all residents of Wenham to observe the holiday by taking part in civic, community, and service programs in its honor. We recognize both the importance of Dr. King's life and legacy, but also remind each other that we can all contribute to the ongoing work by our actions each and every day. So that's the proclamation as written. And we can discuss it and decide if it's, you know, the wording is what we wish it to be, and then take a motion. Maybe that's the right thing to do, because we typically write these, but this one has been written by the, in order to help us, written by the Human Rights Committee. So we just want to be clear that this is language and wording that we're comfortable with and resonates with what we think it should say. So Diane or Gary, do you have any comments or questions or potential edits you'd like to make to this document?
I think it sounds wonderful. I think they worked really hard, and it speaks well for what the day means. It's very nice.
Gary, do you have anything?
Yes, I want to thank Martha Brennan and the everybody on the Human Rights Committee to bring this forward, and I agree, very important nowadays, and let's move forward as is.
They worked very hard too. They asked me this a week or so ago, and I told them that I would certainly put it on the agenda, but we needed and they offered to write a proclamation. So special thanks for doing this quickly. Their meeting was last night, So which is why we've received it just today, but thanks to all of them, I agree. So we have a motion in this case.
Right. I move to approve the Town of Wenham's Martin Luther King Proclamation as written.
Second.
Okay. Assuming there's no further discussion, we'll take a vote. Gary,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Catherine, yes. So this proclamation has been approved by the Town Select Board, and it will be, we need to sign this. I think since this is actually a color paper, we're going to have to go into the office and sign it. So maybe Michelle can let us know when it's ready for signature, and then we'll get it up on the website in time for the actual Martin Luther King Day, which is the 17th. Okay. Excuse me. Getting over a cold. Thank you to my grandchildren. The next thing on our agenda is the discussion and appointment of a temporary treasurer collector. By way of explanation, as we're probably aware, our treasurer collector has left us. Her last day of employment was Thursday, December 23rd. And we need to come up with a process and to hire a new person eventually. But we have had in the office a consultant. I think she's been here since September, and she's been actually training our past treasurer collector. Her name is Belinda Young, and she has agreed, if we wish her to stay on as the interim, as an interim. Well, actually, it's going to be called legally. Talk to counsel about that. This person will be called a temporary treasurer collector. She's willing to stay on until we decide, you know, how we want to proceed and what we want to do with this on a more permanent basis. We've received some biographical information. Jamie is not in today, so she would normally be here to speak to this, but she has sent me something written. Belinda is sent us something written, a former treasurer collector from the town of Middleton, and comes with almost 10 years of experience as in a treasurer collector office and 20 years of experience in municipal setting. And most recently, I think the last few years, she's been serving communities such as Swampscott, Middleton, and Wenham on a consultant basis. And these are Jamie's words: having a part-time temporary treasurer collector will help aid the office of the finance office until a full-time person is hired. So that's the situation with the temporary treasurer collector. Are there any questions or comments on that? Yeah, I'm sorry, Gary.
Yeah, so I think we're quite fortunate having Belinda being in there for the last few months, very familiar with our operation. And I think this is a optimum solution to get her hired as the temporary treasurer collector.
Okay, Diane.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I've met Belinda on a couple of occasions, and excuse me here, picking up something that I dropped. I think we're very fortunate to be able to move directly to a temporary treasurer collector who's already onboarded and also very familiar with the role in general, but also very familiar with the town. So we thank her for offering to do this. If there are no other comments, I'll take a motion.
Do we need to specify the end date on the remainder of the term?
Well, I believe, and I had to check on this, I believe it's the end of the fiscal year. So the remainder of the term is until a maximum until June 30th, 2022. Maybe shorter term at our discretion, depending on who we hire, but that term that's discussing is the end of the fiscal year. It's the end of we appoint the treasurer collector every year at the end of the fiscal year, so the beginning of the new one. So if you want, you can certainly add the date on that.
All right, I'll move to appoint Belinda Young as the temporary treasurer effective immediately for the remainder of the term ending 30 June 2022.
Second.
Just one more comment. We will have to work out, when Jamie comes back, we'll have to work out a few of the details of her employment, her temporary employment. But if there are any issues, we'll certainly bring that back. But feel pretty confident at this point that we can work something out with Belinda. Okay, so we'll move on to a vote to appoint Belinda as temporary treasurer collector. Diane,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes,
Catherine, yes. So thank you, Belinda. I will contact the office tomorrow and make sure that she knows that that has happened effective immediately. Okay, so moving along. So the next couple of, I'll introduce the next couple of agenda items sort of together. While our current TA is out, we need to approve some time-sensitive documents or initiatives that the TA would normally sign. Some of them are a little, there are some longer term ones, but the two that are here, I've put on the agenda for the full board so that we can make these authorizations and take the actions. The first one, and I think there's a slide, a backup slide on this. Do you have a backup slide on this? Maybe not. I'll speak to it. So as we know, Bill Tyak has retired, and by contract, he's entitled to sick day, vacation day buyback. It's something that's routine normally. It's been budgeted, I've been told, but again, with our TA being out, he would be the person that person would be the person to sign it. And so this first retiree sick day vacation buyback is to approve the buyback to Bill Tyak as presented, which is in a sum of $48,605.96. And so if this is approved, if you'd like, you can authorize me to sign this, or we can all go in and sign it at your pleasure. But I'm happy to sign as long as I'm authorized to do that. We'll take the motion separately, so
right.
we can
All
start
right.
with them.
Move to approve the sick day, vacation day buyback to Bill Tyak as presented in the sum of $48,605.96. And if I might add, well-deserved and for Bill Tyak.
Okay.
I second
And
that.
thanks. And would we all like to come in and sign that, or
Sure.
kind of?
Or in
Okay.
tomorrow for the other
Okay.
signatures, right?
Yes, this piece of paper will, Michelle, I'm going to ask if you would just make sure that it resides back in well, actually the easiest thing would be if it were in your office, and then we could sign everything in the same place. So that's the first authorization. The second one is a grant application, which again is in typical times, would be signed because it's the first step, the application signed by the TA, but we need authorization here. And I believe our police chief, DiNapoli, is here to briefly give us an overview of what this grant is. I think it's always fun to hear about, or useful to hear about grants that
Yeah.
we may get. Thank you for coming, Chief.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, this is a pretty good grant that came out mid-December, and it entitles all 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts to apply for this automatic external defibrillator grant. It has to be used by first responders in their vehicles. So which it's normal practice for patrol officer to bring a defibrillator with them to and from the cruiser when they go out for service to patrol. So it allows for up to $2,500. You can only apply for one per municipality. And it does, it's a short window on this. It opened December 15th and it closes January 14th. So it was a real quick turnaround. As soon as we saw it, I could tell it was the type of grant that pretty clean and pretty basic. And it appeared that, you know, any municipality that did put in for it would have some good success. So we jumped right on it, and we're hoping it'll all go through clean.
Okay, questions about this grant? Again, we would normally not have this before the board, but this time we do. Questions? Gary, Diane?
Sounds good.
anything?
Sounds good.
Okay. In this case, we have the actual application in our packet, and it does anticipate that there's a municipal authorizing official title and signature. And it's pre-printed by the state, and it only has room for one signature. So if I may ask that as we vote, or as you make this motion, Gary, that you authorize the chair to sign this as part of the motion.
Got it.
Thank you. I think we're ready for that.
Right. Move to approve the automatic external defibrillator grant application as presented and to be signed by the chairman of the select board.
Second.
Okay. I guess sounds like we might be ready for a vote on this one. Diane,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Catherine, yes. So unanimous. Thank you, Chief. And I think this lives in the police station. Is that correct?
Yes, we'll get that right over. And
To Michelle?
yeah.
That'd be great.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. So the next item on our agenda is another appointment, another temporary appointment. This is a discussion and potential vote to appoint a temporary chief procurement officer. And in this case, it would be Jamie Cologne. Again, for the same reason that while our current TA is out, there are a couple of pending procurement issues, such as the master plan, that we need to have the involvement of a certified procurement officer to finalize and to administer this procurement process. Jamie, fortunately for us, is a certified Massachusetts procurement officer. And so again, checking with council, she can be appointed as a temporary chief procurement officer effective immediately, which would allow some of these procurement issues that are stacking up to move forward. And again, the one that came to my attention most recently is the master plan. I know Margaret is here. We have only on the agenda tonight the actual appointment of a temporary chief procurement officer. I know you have some other issues relative, but Margaret, if you'd like to comment at all about the need for a temporary procurement officer for the master plan, you're welcome to. Not required, but you're welcome to.
Okay, thanks, Catherine.
Sure.
So as everyone knows, I think we've been trying to get our RFP out for the master plan to secure a consultant. And, with Ryan's absence and, some of the staff limitations we have here, it hasn't gone out yet. It's important that this RFP gets out as soon as possible. I think I had mentioned that we received a grant for $75,000 towards our master plan from the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development. And that money has to be spent by the end of June. So we need to get a consultant in place so that they can utilize those funds as quickly as possible. So that's why I feel like if we wait any longer, we're going to miss that opportunity to use those funds. So that's part of my reason for wanting this to happen as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Margaret. Questions, Gary or Diane? No, from Gary. Okay, thank you for that explanation. I think there are some other pending procurement issues, and we'll be ready for those as well in the event that they come up in the short term. And Jamie's not able to be with us tonight, but I have spoken to her about this, and she is willing to accept this appointment should we approve it. So ready for a motion, I think.
All right, move to
Please.
appoint Jamie Cologne as temporary Chief Procurement Officer effective immediately.
Second,
Okay, if there's no more comments or questions, we'll take a vote. Diane,
yes.
Catherine, yes, Gary.
Yes.
So unanimous. And again, I'll let Jamie know when she gets back. Okay, the last new business item is sort of an extension of the other two issues that we just talked about in terms of signature authority. The authorization for the vacation day buyback and the grant for the defibrillator were very timely and one-time things that had a very short date. So it seemed like the right thing to do to bring them to a meeting for us all to see them, discuss them, get them out of the way. There will continue to be matters that are ongoing or recurring that will require signatures in lieu of our town administrator at the moment. And interestingly enough, Mass General Law has made an allowance for this to happen. It's actually in our packets, but it's Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 56, which I abbreviated for the title of the agenda. But when we get to the motion, I think council would like us to read the entire language. But essentially, in the absence of the signature authority and for these items, select items, they call them matters not admitting of delay, which apparently are, ongoing, shorter term, smaller items, that allows the delegation of signature authority to the select board chair. And those are things like payroll warrants, this grant application, responding to public record requests and similar matters. I will note importantly, and it'll say this in the motion, that the statutory language requires that any action that's taken, any signature, for instance, the board chair, anything that it signs, must be reported to the full board at the next meeting. So should you delegate this temporary authority to me at every one of our meetings, I will be providing a written log of everything, every action that I've taken in accordance with this authorization, so that everybody is kept up to date and knows what has been signed. I don't think that there are many different things, but there are more recurring things that need to be signed. So that's the explanation for that. Are there questions or comments, Diane? Nope, makes sense. Okay, Gary?
No, just note that the review and approval of payroll warrants, that's signing as the substitute for the town administrator, and that all three of us will continue to get the weekly emails from the
Yes,
finance office, right?
absolutely right. This doesn't change the signing of the town warrants, the AP and the payroll major warrants. And thank you for clarifying that. This is only the departmental signature that would be given by the town administrator. And because we're in this kind of a situation right now, I think I've suggested before, and I think we do this anyway, especially now that we can do it electronically. I think it's really important for all three of us, even though the warrants only require two. I think it's important for all three of us to sign all of these warrants, but I think that we do that anyway. So if there's no further discussion, I would be happy to hear this motion, which has literally come directly from council. You could tell that no one in town hall wrote this motion.
All right. Here we go. Move to delegate to the select board chair, in the absence of the town administrator, such matters not admitting of delay, such as facility or personnel issues, review and approval of payroll warrants, signing grant applications, responding to public record requests, and similar matters, all with the expectation that following any action taken in accord with such authorization would be reported to the full board at its next meeting.
Second.
Having heard all of that, any final questions? If not, we'll take a vote. Diane,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes,
Catherine, yes. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. It's been a little challenging trying to keep up with things for the last couple of weeks, and this will make it a little easier moving forward for as long as we need to do that. So we voted, it was unanimous. We're done with that. The last item is, as always, other matters. I don't have any other matters, but I believe Martha Brennan has joined us. Are you actually there, Martha?
I
Okay.
am here.
Okay,
Sorry.
so that's okay. I just wanted to report to you that to thank you on behalf of the board. We all thank you for putting together the proclamation for Martin Luther King Jr. Day with the Human Rights Committee. It was unanimously approved.
Oh, that's great. I tried so hard to get home in time.
I know.
But I was in Beverly at our the homeless dinner that I do every first Tuesday of the month. So just couldn't
Well, that
quite
was
make it
pretty
back.
important. Pretty important. It's all set. We're going to sign it. The three of us will sign it in the next day or so, and as soon as it's signed, it will be ready to go up on the website. Now,
Okay.
I have a question. Did the committee put it on the website last time? The last time we had a proclamation, or was that done in town hall?
No,
By someone
you
in town
guys
hall?
did that. We don't have any access to that. So
Ah,
I
okay.
didn't know if there was a, we can take this offline if it's not appropriate, but is there like a system for when you do a press release and for what kinds of things you do that for?
There isn't anything written, any process or policy that I'm aware of, unless someone else is aware of it. But we can talk about that. See what we can do with the resources that we have on a case by case basis.
Yeah,
I
I don't
did
want to cause any extra expense. I was just, when I was researching to put the proclamation together, it was an interesting what towns in Massachusetts do them and what ones don't. So I'm glad that we're being added to the list of towns that are going to recognize it officially.
So are we. And thank you for pulling it together as quickly as you did. I know that you guys met last night. So great. Thank you for that
Yeah.
turnaround.
And thanks for the update. I was like, oh no, I just missed my thing. I want to know what happened.
We were a little quicker than I thought we might have been, but I did see you there. So I didn't want you to leave
Okay.
thinking that we decided to skip it or something. So
Oh
it's
no,
all set.
I knew it was too, I knew I had missed the agenda item. So
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you guys very much. So the only other thing on our agenda tonight, as usual, and I'm sure I've forgotten something, but upcoming meeting dates. This says the date is correct, January 13th. I don't think we'll get this name right ever, but I think it is being called the Joint Tri-Board meeting. I actually think it's a quint, or it's been called a quint board meeting, but it's essentially both towns and the schools, superintendent, administrators, and town administrator, town manager, and FinComs and select boards from both towns meeting together to discuss the school budget. And I believe the agenda has been sent out, and it's being run as a webinar. So we each have our own ID. So Gary and Diane, have you each gotten a separate
yes.
webinar ID?
Mhm.
Yes. Okay. So that's on January 13th, I think 7 p.m. And then our next regularly scheduled select board meeting is on January 18th, which is according to our first and third Tuesdays of the month. If there's anything new that comes up, of course, we'll let you know. Does anybody else have anything they want to add to tonight's meeting? Gary, yes.
I could just suggest, the Board of Health has a meeting Friday, you said.
Mhm.
That's a daytime meeting usually.
It's
Perhaps
9 a.m.
Yeah, perhaps we should invite someone from the Board of Health to the meeting on the 18th to update the town on this surge of COVID.
Yep, I have that. I have that on the list for the 18th. I have also asked them to, sort of look at the policies that we have in place right now for, our town hall and masks, et cetera, and just to see if there's anything that they would like to update relative to that. So yeah, definitely we'll ask them to have someone come on the 18th. Anything else? If not, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Okay, all in favor, Gary,
yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Catherine, yes. Thank you, everyone, for your patience with some of these agenda items and for attending, and to the public. And we will be back on the 18th for our next meeting. And please, everyone, remember to come in the next day or so, and there are several things for us to sign.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're adjourned at sometime 7:20. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Good evening.
Good night.